Book of Twilight. Wenzhi, Battle with the Bone Devil, a tale of the daughter of the moon goddess, in which celestial soldiers fight a fearsome monster. The lake was encircled by ancient pine trees. They reminded me of my home in the cloud wall, my courtyard always fragrant with their woody scent, except here, the rust-colored bark was veined in gray like a web of shadow had been strewn across it. Their feathery needles glinted as though tipped with iron, clinking ominously as the wind blew. Unease darted across the back of my neck before it was swiftly extinguished. The futility of fear lay in slowing the hand and dulling the mind, when one needed them most. I was accustomed to numbing myself to it, to give it no place, as I'd courted danger for as long as I'd wielded a sword. It did not matter what form an enemy took, they wanted the same thing, their victory in exchange for my defeat. I would deny them all. To some it was a game, a toss of a coin, but in my childhood, one slip could mean death. There was little room for error, for a misplaced trust and flawed judgment, though it had not deterred me from entering the fray. If one did not play, one could never win. Despite my achievements, there was little joy in what I did. It was easy to forget the beauty in the realm, its wonder, when one was mired in despair and death. But I would not falter now, when the end was in sight, everything I had planned and striven for all these years. There would be time enough for pleasures of the world when I had secured my place in it, along with the safety of those who relied upon me. Is that the Bone Devil's hideout? Shingen's voice broke through my thoughts. She stood beside me, her dark eyes moving from side to side, assessing the terrain. There was no trace of anxiety, her spirit as steady as her aim. We were alike that way, holding our ground, making our way without need of another. It was one of the reasons I trusted her. While she bore secrets of her own, they did not overly concern me, for her honor shone clear. Unlike yours, my conscience whispered before I silenced it. The bodies were found not far from here, drained of their life force and blood. One of the victims was still alive when our scouts found him, I recounted. The creature is hungry after being imprisoned for so long. She frowned. How did it escape? I thought celestial prisons were impenetrable, impossible to break out from. They are. The worst celestial prisons are windowless pits of hell. Most prisoners lose their minds after a few decades. Each is held captive in a unique way, fashioned for them alone, in the most torturous of binds. I spoke slowly, wanting the words to sink in. Her lips curled with revulsion. Even monsters deserve mercy. Even demons, I wanted to say. I told her this story in part calculation, to show her the Celestials' hands were not as pristine as they wanted the rest of the realm to believe. They could be cruel, too, except they concealed it better, shaping the truth to favor them alone. The Bone Devil meditated for centuries to strengthen its power. It possessed a secret trait that we discovered too late, that once it advanced to the next stage of its magic, it could morph into a new form, one that rendered its existing binds useless. She frowned. Is the creature more powerful than when it first captured? Unfortunately, yes. I raised my voice so the others would hear. The Bone Devil cannot be allowed to escape again. It is out for vengeance, viciously killing all who cross its path. Its magic is strong, and its physical form, and it moves like the wind. A single puncture from its fangs and claws will inflict grave injuries. How many victims did it claim this time? Shingen sounded tense, bracing for the worst. 5. 2 were children. Anger seethed in my gut at the creature's wickedness. Death was a soldier's shadow, but the slaughter of innocents sickened me still. Her mouth thinned. It will pay. We will make sure of it. I nodded toward the tallest of the 6 soldiers, the one who stood closest to me. Soldier Yang, stay here with the others and take the lead. Leave your wards around the lake. The Bone Devil does not like water, for it obscures its senses, and this will help conceal our magic once we lure it here. Stay hidden until commanded otherwise, and hold your shields firmly so the creature cannot escape. The soldier bowed, though a frown marred his seeming compliance. Speak freely, Soldier Yang, I told him. Why must we stay hidden? He blurted. If the Bone Devil can't see you, it can't attack you. The wards will be safe. The soldiers' frown deepened when another more battle-weary might have rejoiced. But if we stay hidden, how will we kill it? That falls to the first archer in me. I inclined my head toward Xingyin. As the soldier glanced at her, his lips pursed in seeming disdain. My jaw tightened as I fought back the protectiveness that had risen in me since Xingyin's near death at the hands of Governor Ren. The memory seared, it always did, and how I wished I'd killed him that day. It had taken every bit of my willpower not to strike the final blow, when I had returned to the tent to find her on the brink of death. Yet not a victim, for she was never one. Something in me had snapped. A primal urge reared to destroy the one who had hurt her. The emotions evoked had been so strong it disconcerted me. I had always respected her skill and intelligence, even as I found myself intrigued by her. The more time I spent with her, the stronger the sensation grew, awakening new and inconvenient ones. The reluctance at having to deceive her, resentment when sadness clouded her face, for I knew she was thinking of the celestial who had broken her heart. A twinge in my chest when she yielded one of her rare smiles. I did not like this. Emotions were unpredictable, perilous in my situation. Xingyin might despise me if she knew the truth of my heritage. While she did not seem blindly loyal to the celestial kingdom, she would not look lightly upon my deceit and the role I had to play here. My instincts cautioned me to wait, to learn what she was concealing. I knew the signs, having studied them myself. While I was curious, it would change nothing about my regard for her. She would have my support. Until then, I would keep my silence. I would not jeopardize all I had fought for, no matter the temptation. I would bide my time, earn her trust. She might rage upon learning the truth, but over time she would understand. Our connection went deeper than such matters. I had not lied about my background. Rather, I had omitted certain facts. With her, I had always been my true self. I would not willingly deceive her about who I really was, not in the ways that mattered. For we were cut from the same cloth, of the same stubborn and unflinching nature, and we would either soar together or destroy each other. Never the latter, I swore, for I would win her to my side. Not just because she would be a useful pawn or powerful ally, although there was truth in both. In the beginning, I'd wanted to keep her close for those reasons, after witnessing her unexpected bond with the Jade Dragon bow. If I delivered both the legendary weapon and its wielder to my father, I would earn his favor, securing my place as his heir. Only then would my mother and those under my protection be safe, for my accursed brother who would no longer be able to threaten them. This was what I had worked so hard toward. I could not rest till I had achieved it. But while my ambition remained the same, my path had shifted. The thought of my father using Xingyin for his own ends repelled me. Despite her innate strength, her refusal would not matter, for he could bend her mind, manipulate her to do his bidding. Few could match his skill in those arts. My stomach turned, not because of my inherent distaste for the use of magic, but because deep down I did not want her to change, even if it meant she would be mine. I wanted her to remain who she was, to come to me of her own will. It would be meaningless otherwise. I resolved then to never tell father of her gift, to keep her and her secret safe, and if it came down to it, I would fight to protect her. Soldier Yang cleared his throat now, likely emboldened by my silence. The Bone Devil is dangerous. Perhaps another might accompany you. I reined in my annoyance. The soldier was new. I should not intimidate him. He was still eager for glory, impatient for fame. Likely he imagined that I was playing favorites, allowing the first archer the choicest part of the assignment, though it wouldn't take long for the tarnish to set in, for him to sigh with relief rather than envy those chosen for the front line. Xingyin might not appear dangerous at first, but only to fools or untrained. Any formidable warrior could discern the intensity in her gaze, the deadly grace of her movements, the power with which she wielded her weapon. Watching her fight stirred something in me, just as when I'd first seen her shoot down General Jian Yun's targets. Admiration, respect, and an inexplicable, infuriating sense of wonder. I never thought anyone could capture my attention the way she had. I had hoped it was a brief fascination, as a child with a new toy, but it deepened along with our acquaintance. She had proven me wrong again and again, and I was beginning to thrive on the challenge. I glanced at her, trying to read her expression. The soldier was both right and wrong. I did favor Xingyan's company above all others, though she had more than earned her position through merit. Yet a good commander did not demand blind obedience. Far better to earn it, to encourage questioning, to teach the soldiers to think for themselves and guard against every eventuality. All of you must remain here because we are laying a trap to lure the bone devil to the lake so we can fight it together, I said to the soldiers. Just the first archer will accompany me to seek out the creature, as speed will be essential rather than numbers. If our group is too large, the monster will not approach. It is cowardly at heart, only attacking when it knows it can prevail, seeking victims, not a fair fight. Yes, Captain, they intoned as they bowed before taking their assigned positions. Xingyan and I left to the lake then, heading deeper into the forest. After a short distance, she turned to me. Wenzhi, should we disguise our armor? It might rouse the bone devil's suspicions. Warmth flashed through me at her informal use of my name. Alone, we dispensed with the formalities that she was careful to maintain before others. I was glad to not have used a false name, for it would have deprived me of this pleasure. I stopped by a grove of bamboo, their yellowing stalks thickly clustered. You are right. We will change now. The urge to tease her unfolded, a frivolity I usually disdained. Will you help me? A shadow fell across her face. I cursed myself for unthinking words, evoking memories of the celestial crown prince she had served. She had been his companion, but it was plain to all that their relationship went deeper. However, that was in the past. He had hurt her, and she was with me now. Does my request make you nervous? A challenge was the best way to provoke her, to rouse her from sorrow or regret. She stiffened, but instead of shying away, she stepped closer and tapped my chest, her nail clicking against my armor. Something sparked in my veins, my mouth going dry. Why would I be nervous? Her eyes were alight with sudden humor. If you need help to undress like a child, I would be willing to aid you. I scowled at her insult, yet admired how she had spun things around with ruthless competence. What's the matter, Captain? Her smile widened. She was laughing at me now. Changed your mind? I wanted to toss caution to the wind and accept her offer, though it had been made in jest. We were at the brink of flirtation, a dance we'd sometimes engaged in since the Eastern Sea, yet never slipping over the edge. She was so rarely in this mood, a reckless part of me wanted to press onward, to see how far this game might be played. My chest constricted with the anticipation that I restrained. We were here for a purpose. If we did not find the bone devil soon, it would strike again. An illusion will suffice, I told her, releasing my magic that glittered as it gilded over us. Our armor shimmered, shifting into robes. Her hair was gathered in coils, flower-shaped pins tucked between their dark strands. Her bow morphed into a fan, my sword into a jade walking staff. Will this be enough? She asked, touching the intricate embroidery of her gown. One hadn't imagined such detail. It will. Our appearance is just to bait the bone devil, to make us seem easy prey. When it attacks, we'll need our armor and weapons on hand. I spoke somberly, even as I drank in the sight of her in these garments. The green suited her well, bringing out the color in her skin, the darkness of her hair and eyes. The last time she had dressed in such finery was for the banquet in the Eastern Sea, a night of many beginnings. She tilted her head back. We can't let the creature get too close, otherwise it might sense the illusion. Once we're spotted, we must quickly draw it to the lake. As I nodded, her gaze flicked up to mine. I held it. A beat pulsed through us, her chest rising and falling with greater force. For a moment we seemed lost in an illusion of our own, in which we were different people, not here to slay a monster, but simply enjoying each other's company. An ache pulsed that this was not our reality, even as I began to hope it might be, one day, far from here. When we were no longer part of the celestial army, I would share with her all I was. For now I would wait. When a battle was fought was often a crucial element of its outcome. Part of her heart still belonged to the celestial prince, and I would pry it free, for I wanted it all. Are you worthy of her? my conscience demanded. Perhaps not, I conceded darkly, but I will be. Come, Wenzhi. She was already moving ahead of me. We must not delay. It will be harder to fight the creature in the dark. Deeper in the forest, the trees loomed higher, their branches weaving above until just the barest scraps of sky remained. Sunlight filtered through the thin shafts, watery and weak. The ground was barren, the atmosphere heavy, without even the lilt of a bird to lift the gloom. Had they all been scared away? Devoured? Our approach was deliberately careless, treading over crackling twigs, our hands and elbows jostling the leaves. Xingyin stumbled over a loose rock, letting out a small cry as I caught her arm. Was it an act to trick our foe or clumsiness? I could not tell. My senses dulled when it came to her, perhaps because my emotions were entangled. As she stiffened in my hold, I released her. She was unused to my touch, just as I rarely touched another. Both of us were guarded, and I wondered yet again what she was wary of. A good performance, I grinned. You've made enough noise for every month during these woods to hear us. She laughed. I'm not that cunning. I did trip for real, but the next one can be feigned. I bent my head toward her. What shall we talk about now? Must we talk at all, Wenzhi? She was adept at evading such questions. Yes, if we're to give the appearance of being intimate. She inhaled sharply. Why must it be so? Why can't we be friends out for a walk? Why would friends come to this secluded forest braving the warnings unless they wanted to be alone? I replied evenly. Her eyes narrowed. Perhaps you should have come here with Soldier Yang. He might be more inclined to play this part with you. He might be better company, but he doesn't shoot half as well. I might miss and hit you instead, she said cuttingly. By accident or design? It depends on how much you continue to bait me. Are you aware of the punishment in the Celestial Army for intentionally injuring your commander? I tried to keep a stern expression as she glared at me, undaunted. Then it's fortunate I am not officially part of the army, she shook her head. Rest assured, I'd never shoot a friend, whether by accident or design. A friend? I suppressed the urge to frown. Is that what I am? Of course, she replied without hesitation. What would you be, if not, Captain? Her use of my title silenced me. I wanted to say more, to lift her face to mine, to ask for her heart, as I was in danger of losing mine. But this was no time for rash declarations. I would not risk everything I had set in place, the years of feigned servitude to a cause I despised, nor would I stain her earned reputation with malicious talk of favoritism, for success undoubtedly invited envy. There were enough whisperers surrounding us. I would give the gossips no more fodder. I'd wait until we were free of the celestial kingdom, of these positions that neither of us cared for. I stilled then at the same moment she did. A scent slithered through the air, melding with the cold of mint and cloves, so sharp it hit the back of my throat, infusing my senses with dread. Her voice dipped, soft yet clear. It's near. The creature's aura flitted closer. The wind roiled with greater force, the rustling of pine needles hardening to jangles of metal. Trees bent until they seemed entwined, locked in an unnatural embrace. At once I tightened my hold over the illusion that clad our forms. A silvery blur darted between the trees. At my nod, Xingyin and I dashed through the forest, ducking beneath the low branches, leaping over the undulating roots that seemed to rise higher with each step. Shadows stretched like ink blots, as though the last remnants of the sky had been blocked from above. A coldness spiked from behind, a shudder running down my spine. Water was one of my talents, yet the chill emanated from this creature reached bone deep. Xingyin kept pace with me effortlessly, her labored breathing the only sign of strain. A white arm lashed out by the side of my face, claws glinting. Instinctively I ducked, swinging my sword, still disguised as a staff, to bat it aside. As a fleshy hand snaked around Xingyin's wrist, fury shot through me. I grabbed her arm to steady her as she staggered to a halt, yet she wrenched free of my grip, unwilling to slow me down. As she struggled to tear herself from the creature's grasp, I reached for my magic, yet flames were already coursing from her palm to strike the bone devil. Even now she did not drop the act, reining in her powers, fighting back just enough to break free, but not to scare off the creature. As I fell back, we raced onward until the waters of the lake gleamed before us. Our soldiers were nowhere in sight, obeying my command to secure this place, their wards encircling it like an invisible wall. As we dashed through the barrier, I tested their strength. Soldier Yang and the others had done well. The wards were strong, crafted to allow entry yet prevent escape, though it remained to be seen whether they would hold. Xingyan and I stopped by the shore, swinging around. The bone devil towered over us, its long arms springing from its torso. Silver horns arched from its head, the thick strands of its hair curling like serpents. Its flawless skin was like silk pulled taut, its eyes luminous, the tips of its claws crusted with dark stains. Remains of its past victims? It would be the creature's last. "Come to me," a gentle yet insidious whisper. My limbs twitched against my will. Its voice possessed an uncommon quality that drew me to it. From the confusion on her face, Xingyin was struggling too. This was not compulsion, but more like a lure that called our bodies instead of our minds. "Shield yourself," I hissed between clenched teeth. At once her energy surged, forming a barrier all around. "Who are you? What do you want with us?" Xingyin cried, her voice shaking with seeming terror. The bone devil's mouth parted to reveal rows of needle-sharp teeth. A purplish tongue slithered forth to lick its plump lips. "I am hungry, child," it said in a sing-song voice. "The cruel celestials have caged me for too long. I must sate my appetite. You cannot escape, but if you come here and let me feed a little, I will set you and your companion free. It will not hurt." Lies, I thought bleakly, recalling the bodies left in its wake. Drained of their life force and blood, their expressions locked in horror and agony. I would sacrifice none of my soldiers to this creature's vicious appetite. "Do you promise to let us go?" I played along with this farce. "Upon my honor," it swore in honeyed tones as it stalked closer, its gaze darting around to probe our surroundings. Could it sense the wards? "How can we trust you?" Xingyin asked, a fitting question, for no one would surrender themselves so easily, no matter the assurance. The bone devil took another step closer, its lips curling into a malicious smile, eyes alight with anticipation. It thought it had us snared. We were almost within reach of its arms, even as it neared the boundary of our wards. Xingyin swayed where she stood as though struggling with the impulse, taking a step toward the creature. It sprang toward us, right through the wards, its eyes widening as it sensed our trap closing around it. I moved swiftly, discarding our illusion, thrusting my sword at its torso. It dipped back, then turned to flee, but it didn't get far, light erupting around us, the wards holding fast. "Celestial soldiers!" The bone devil's shriek pierced my ears. "I will peel your skin from your flesh, rip your limbs from your body." It snarled as it faced us once more. Rage flashed, which I quenched. It was a vulnerability that an astute enemy would hone into a blade, and the bone devil had proven itself a cunning adversary. Xingyin drew her bow, the tips of 3 arrows glinting in the light, releasing them to hurtle through the air. The monster crossed its arms, a column of light enveloping it like a cloak. The arrows struck, then fell away as limp as straw. In the same breath, the bone devil dove toward her, its claws slashing at her face. She shielded herself. I leapt forward in a reckless assault. My sword arced through the air, cutting the creature relentlessly. Xingyin's magic slammed against its barrier, and when it cracked, her next arrow burst through to plunge into the bone devil's arm. Pride flashed through me at how she wielded magic and weapons so seamlessly, one of the first things I taught her. The bone devil tore out the arrows, pale liquid oozing from the gashes. As its claws glided over them, the wounds sealed, though its face twisted in unbridled wrath. "You think you shoot well?" it sneered, flinging its palms wide. Shards of bone erupted from its flesh, hurtling like darts towards Xingyin. She fell to the ground and rolled away, her shield shining brighter. One shard struck, penetrating her barrier, burying into her shoulder. As her blood spilled forth, wrath burned like a hot coal in my gut. Gritting my teeth, I flew at the creature, my sword slamming at it again and again, craving the physical satisfaction of driving my blade through its flesh to sate my rage. The bone devil met my blows with equal ferocity, yet it was tiring fast. My magic enveloped it, locking its limbs as the tip of my blade sank through the creature's chest. It lurched free, then dove at me, its jaws snapping, fangs glistening. I was too close, within its grasp. A careless slip. I moved back, but a burst of its power seized me, dragging me forward, its claws poised to sink into my neck. As I braced, a shield sprang up around me, Xinyan's arrows already arcing through the air, slamming into the bone devil's shoulder. It cursed, spinning toward her now, its attention diverted from me. "Fall back," I commanded her urgently, not the celestial captain eager to clinch victory, my only concern for her safety. I was tempted to summon the other soldiers to aid us, but they were holding the wards as ordered. If they dropped them, the creature would flee. Xingyan was already fitting another arrow to her bow, never one for obeying orders when her instincts called. As the bone devil flew at her, I dove forward to block its path. Her arrows hurtled forward, driving into the monster's skull. A piteous shriek erupted, curved claws groping at the shaft, its hands quivering before falling away as it collapsed onto the ground. Its eyes fluttered, then sank shut, its body twitching in its final throes, that futile struggle to cling to life that I had seen too many times before. Once I had felt the same remorse that now darkened Xingyan's expression, but it had faded to a shadow, one I could almost pretend did not exist. Around us, the other soldiers emerged from their hiding places. Their faces were drawn and pale from the strain of holding the wards. As they gathered around the bone devil, I bent to examine Xingyan's wound, where the shard of bone had struck. Raising my hand, I released my magic into her body. Healing did not come naturally to me. It drained me more than any other enchantment, but this was the small price to pay. It would also deprive the Celestial Prince of the opportunity to approach her when she was weakened. As the color slowly returned to her face, her lips forming a faint smile, a rare satisfaction filled me that had nothing to do with our victory. "Your own wounds. You should see to them first," she protested. I ignored the discomfort. "They are just scratches. The bone devil almost tore out your throat." "Thank you for stopping it," I told her gravely. She had risked herself for me, putting herself in harm's way without hesitation. I would not forget it. Her smile widened. "A favor repaid. You saved me before." "More than once," pride spurred the reminder. "This won't be the last time either." Her gaze held mine. Friends watch out for each other. A promise that softened even my hard heart, though it was accompanied by the unwelcome title of friend once again. Yet there was more between us than the friendship she claimed, and her trust was a gift I would not disdain. I trust I would destroy. I struck the thought away. Such frail foundations to build a future upon, but I would not waver from the path ahead. Since my youth, I had learned to seize what I wanted, whether through force or cunning. I had been born to a title without its privileges, thrust into a dangerous world, one I had carved my own place in. I would never compromise what I had fought so hard for. That was almost within my grasp. The wiser part of me cautioned against further entanglement, but it was too late. Yet I would be no slave to desire, no fool for love. My heart would never rule my head.